Hi everyone, I am Chirag Thakkar, commissioning editor at Rolly Books, and you're watching this in collaboration between Rolly Pulse, brought to you by Rolly Books as well as News Laundry. This is the sixth and the final episode of our specially curated video series on the media landscape in India. If you haven't already, please go press the bell icon and subscribe to Rolly Books and News Laundry on YouTube, where you'll find the other 5 episodes of the series. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Today's conversation is on how comedy and satire can be tools of social change or not, and how this ecosystem interacts with a large democracy such as India's. How do audiences respond to their favorite comics and what they say? Do all millennials not read news anymore and instead consume news via comic takes on issues? Tackling subjects such as freedom of speech and expression, we will also look at what offense is and whether what is offensive to me is also offensive to someone else, and centrally, whether Indians are too easily offended. Moderating the specially curated media series with Rolly, Pulse, and News Laundry is co-founder at News Laundry, Abhinandan Sekhri, and he's going to be in conversation with a medley of two of India's finest stand-up comics, Veer Das and Aditi Mittal. So welcome to Rolly Pulse, all of you. Abhinandan, why don't you get us started?
Thanks, Chirag, and welcome to this Rolly Pulse and News Laundry collaboration. Welcome, Aditi and Veer.
Hello.
Let me start off with Aditi. We saw what recently happened in Bombay with a young comic. And she had made a joke about, it was a political joke about the expenditure on a statue, not on who the statue was built on. Although in my view, even if the joke had been on Chhatrapati Shivaji, I don't really see a problem there. However, even if that's the case, we saw pushback that made her apologize. There were rape threats. The Home Minister of Maharashtra put out something on Twitter. Now, that is just one case, but there are many cases that people have to apologize. Social media, when 8-10 years ago, when I was just introduced to it, was a place that was made really fun by comics who were commenting on a bunch of things. And then, it became this place for news to dominate narratives. That was also media space. Like there is legacy media, there was social media. Has social media and its purpose changed? And does that make it claustrophobic for comics to really do what they do?
Yes. Media has changed. Drastically, like anything else where there's a larger population of people on it. The purposes and the uses of it, have evolved as we go along. And you have to acknowledge the politicization of social media, whether it's, the infamous BJP IT cell. Does it exist? We don't know any proof of it. Apparently, it's just not a thing. So has it changed? It definitely has changed because the nature of the ground of social media has changed. Does that hamper the way we do comedy? Yes, because when we're doing comedy, like in person, you're in a social contract with the person who has bought a ticket. You're going to give money. I'm going to say something silly. You're going to find it funny or not find it funny. But when you're on social media, it's literally an open bazaar. And anyone can see anything and get offended at anything. And it's not shocking because we are that huge. And I think there's that saying, which is that if you think something about India is true, the opposite of that is also true. And so it is not shocking that these clashes are happening. And in fact, these should have been the sort of cornerstone of healthy discussion and debate. Having said that, when politicians get involved, like when Anil Deshmukh suddenly decides to tweet about this, what are you doing? Not ensure the safety of a person because you're a politician that is, inciting people against this one particular comic. And so I think it's not that our sense of humor is bad or whatever it is. Whatever, people will clash over ideologies and thoughts all the time, but it's when politicians get involved and cannot guarantee that, this is not going to be the reason you die, get like vicious, blind altering threats, then we have a problem.
Okay, Veer, taking off from where Aditi left off, yes, I think offense taking, I don't think is unique to, any one country or people, but acting on that, thinking you get away with it, I think is a real problem. Yeah. And the second part is that are comics being burdened with too much political commentary wherein, a point you've made to me in the past, that is just a small sliver of the repertoire of what you do, and that gets all the attention. Just take our viewers through that.
Look, I think one of the benefits of social media is that you will be able to reach a much wider audience than you were normally able to reach, right? So let's be clear. Good or bad, all comics were in the social media game to get our content out there, right? The downside to social media is a lot of times content that is designed for a certain group of people, which no matter what artist you are designing your content towards a certain group of like-minded people. Your content is going to reach a group of people who do not resonate with that content, are not familiar with the format, are not familiar with the protocol of how to respond to that content. And you just kind of have to live with that. That's par for the course, right? So I don't have so much of a problem with being trolled or being people expressing anger over a joke. I'm always okay with people expressing anger and outrage over a joke. What I've noticed is that the people who create tangible consequences for humor usually aren't on social media. You know what I mean? They are usually minions of somebody on social media. A guy showing up and busting a comedy club, a guy going and doing all of that stuff, didn't read a tweet. You know what I mean? He didn't see a Facebook post. That guy was told to do it. You know what I mean? Now, was he told to do it because of agenda? Was he told to do it because of deviation from an actual issue? These are things to largely consider on social media as well. I don't think social media represents the larger narrative of India in comedy in that sense, right? I think the behavioral narrative of India in comedy is very, very politically driven in that sense. Now, coming back to what you said, yeah, in a 1 hour special, which Mittal has and I have, 3 political jokes, 4 political jokes, maybe. The rest of it is about our lives and about our country and what we feel and things that we do and stories that we tell, those that get blown out of proportion. What I find sad about social media now is the intolerance towards the unevolved. And that is both a left thing and a right thing as well. You know, this Agrima is maybe, Aditi, 4 or 5 years into stand-up, right?
Yeah, 4 years.
Maybe 4 years into stand-up. I'm 13, Aditi, you're 9, 8, something like that?
9, yeah.
Right? No matter what level you are in this game, you're 2 steps away from being tone deaf at all points. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
That's your job, is to find where the line is and get as close to the goddamn line as you can and say things that are possibly stupid and possibly incredibly offensive, right? But the pressure I feel that a young comic has from both the left and the right to be completely politically correct, to take all levels of privilege into account, to take all intersectionality into account and offend nobody is tremendous because of social media. You know, so the tolerance towards a joke that even, and I don't think her joke was offensive, I'll say that clearly, but I think even the tolerance towards an offensive joke is just gone. And that's what social media, that's how I think social media is damaging comedy as well. Is, you know, you came into social media with a mindset of, this is what I like. My interests are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, suddenly if you're introduced to something that you don't like, which you do when content goes viral and content tracks, we don't have it doesn't compute for us anymore. We don't know how to respond respectfully to that. But I didn't like this and this should not be on my social media. This is not what I signed up. Fuck you. Let's burn your house down. You know, that I don't understand. And I feel like comics really, really young are burdened with that pressure. And let's be clear, all Indian comics are really young comics. All of us across the board.
Yeah.
So, actually, I think George Carlin had said that it's the duty of the comedian to find out where the line is drawn and cross it deliberately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I get what you're saying, that it kind of suffocates the space for young comics, you know, to really tell their stories.
Yeah.
Offense taking is not, I mean, I don't think there's anything, you know, you can do about someone taking offense to a joke.
Yeah.
And like you said, the people who act on it also may not have seen the Twitter feed. They are someone's minions or some, they've done it for someone's. However, you know, Aditi, do you think that the people do get emboldened by the support they receive from people who would ordinarily condemn it? While they may say, we hate your joke and we don't like it.
Yeah.
But you can't go beat the guy up for it. Has social media become that way a force multiplier to make what earlier was socially unacceptable acceptable, whether it is saying stuff that was outright racist or bigoted, and that's not just an India phenomena. Things that you'd be embarrassed to say earlier, now people can say because they see a constituency on Twitter. And similarly, earlier, even journalists would say that, I don't agree with this, but you can't go start filing FIRs. Now journalists are saying, go for it, not realizing tomorrow they could be at the receiving end.
Yeah.
Does social media actually not play such a passive role? It actually emboldens such elements.
Gee, and it's about the economy of our attention, right? And so, I mean, how do you otherwise explain the popularity of, rape videos, for example? Not even taking general content into mind, but I mean, there is an economy of rape videos, as has been reported in News Laundry itself. And so, I mean, people, it sort of ends up in social media has sort of enabled people to coagulate around really bad, really socially unacceptable things that are bigoted, things that are racist, things that are sexist. It's in fact more likely to be looked at than things that are not racist, not sexist. And so people know now that, okay, look, if I say something ridiculous, I will get an invitation to sit on Bigg Boss. And for a whole lot of people, that's a valid route to infamy. And so we also have to, as an audience, we have, as consumers of social media, we are sort of the monster that we are fighting. Even when we hate share stuff, even when we, cringe watch things, we are still adding to it in the larger scheme of things. So it very much comes from us.
I just want to add something to what Aditi said, because I agree completely. I also think, very strangely, and maybe this is a very India specific thing, and please forgive me if I'm wrong or correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like we got into social media because it was supposed to be the bastion of the future. You know what I mean? And the bastion of connection. And in India, it has been used very intelligently as the gatekeeper of the past. You know what I mean? And that's something that we're fighting, because stand-up is in its essence a very futuristic art form. It is an art form that is looking back and parodying it to look ahead. In that sense, but old values, old sexism, old racism, old culture, old mythology, old ways of talking to women are all being very actively pushed, promoted, funded on social media, So I really feel like more than many other countries in the world, the older generation, who is afraid of being invalid very, very soon, has weaponized social media very intelligently. Towards newer age art forms, artists, narratives. Look at what everybody's angry about on social media. It's all 80 years old and beyond. We are all mad about Nehru and beyond. You know what I mean? Like, that is what we're mad about. Nobody's mad about कि यार 5 साल में पानी नहीं होगा देश में. You know what I mean? Like, इस महाराज ने क्या किया, उस किंग ने क्या किया, मुगल्स ने क्या किया, नेहरू ने क्या किया. We're talking about the past on a medium of the future, and maybe that is a very specifically Indian thing. I'm not sure, because
Now, what Chirag said is an intro that millennials and I think the post millennials are called Gen Z, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So they are looking at comics to tell them current affairs and to kind of explain news and governance to them. I think that's sad as a news professional. And I'm not sure it's entirely accurate. I want to know your view. Do you think the news media has let the country down and let the generation down in kind of bringing the world to them as news should, and has kind of abdicated that to you? And B, has news media left it to comics to figure out where the line is drawn, and then we'll see whether we can go there, rather than they figure out this is how far the line can be, and now you go occupy it, and that is the canvas. Now paint on it, rather than let the comics touch, play with the line, and if they get beaten up, we'll just stay within our little circle.
Yeah, yes, exactly that. And in fact, I have to admit, as a millennial myself, I grew up watching Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I grew up sort of watching Flop Show, Jaspal Bhatti. A lot of my political understanding of the world, of even basic concepts like fairness, justice, or even I'd say, the famous Indian Naseeb. Naseeb mein likha hai to ho jayega. Like that, those concepts were taught to me through comedy. and it is almost tragic how not only Gen Z but all of us now look to comedy to explain things better to us, which places a pointless pressure on comedy, which it is never able to, and that's why it's never able to put up with that. Like, it's never able to live up to the expectation. And no matter what you do, someone will have a problem. And so at some point you're like, well, do. Then I just do. Then I can't sit around with keeping everybody in mind all the time. Ki nahi, across every spectrum, I must keep this. If you mess up, you apologize and you move on. Luckily, there's no people with sticks outside your house yelling, chanting random gods' names and threatening you. But that pressure sort of has been put on comics a lot, and unfairly so. And the relationship of journalism with comics also is something that needs to be spoken to in a more positive manner, because I just want to point out, this is my office. You know what I'm saying? I am not an organization. I am a single individual जिसने इस वक्त मतलब एक चप्पल वहां पे पड़ी है और एक मैंने पहनी हुई है, because I ran in for this recording. The understanding that we are just citizens with voices is something that journalists need to understand. We don't have backings of large media organizations behind us. If someone comes after us, we are on our own. And then, of course, it becomes look at this one really fighting for freedom of expression, freedom of speech. But the truth is that you as a journalist and the press in general needs to stand behind individuals more than corporations or more than like political parties.
Yeah, I mean, to put it crudely, don't lay your shit at my doorstep. You know what I mean? It's your shit, to be very honest with you. Just because you're hitting a wall and you have a fractured relationship with the government right now, where there's no give and take between the two of you, which is both of your job. You know what I mean? So just because you can only ask him what mangoes he eats, don't expect me to ask him about the budget of the statue. It's not my goddamn job. You know what I mean? To put it very, very clearly. Because when they come for you, you have an office and lawyers and all of that stuff, etc. I just have a microphone, and let's be clear, to be fair, comics like the media attention. When we do a joke or when we push the envelope a little bit, and there are journalists in the background essentially going, yeah, bold, yeah, in your face. You know what I mean? We'll retweet that shit. We will. We will enjoy that attention. But you can't. What is happening with comedy right now? We're all painted with a broad brush, right? Comedians are anti-national, anti-Hindu, traitors, pro-Pakistan, urban Naxal, blah, blah, blah. A manufactured narrative, right? So if you're not going to liaise with the politics of our country, help us fight that narrative as well. Because to me, I take it personally, there's more to my art form than just that, right? So when the only thing you put out an article about is what I said about the government, or what I said about a statue, or what I said about this thing, and that's what you're cheering on, instead of the 9,000 jokes that I do that celebrate our country and that celebrate our culture, you're feeding into that narrative as well. You're painting me with the same broad brush that the people who oppose me are painting me with. I can't ask the questions that you can ask, and right. I shouldn't. And it's my job to be an idiot. Aditi and I both love Jon Stewart, but every day on the Daily Show, Jon Stewart said, don't listen to me. I'm a goddamn idiot. I'm a privileged Jewish white man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the hell do I know? Yeah, jokes. Yeah. Man, if you put us in a place of intelligence or on a pedestal of intelligence, we're truly and properly fucked as a nation. I'm just going to say, we're not going to meet that expectation.
Well, I both agree. Sorry, go ahead, Aditi.
No, just I was just doing 100%. I agree.
I agree and disagree in the sense that I think, what you said about just, outsourcing the job of journalism to comics and to talking truth to power is ridiculous. And I think it's journalists who should make the canvas bigger so that others can paint their art form on it rather than the other way around, which is what the expectation today is. But on the intelligence bit, I think, whether, and that's, down history, to simplify something into a joke or to demonstrate the irony of something requires more intelligence than just to report it. So, and I think artists do understand that. I mean, the ones who I follow and they've got pushback as well. Like Bill Maher, I think Bill Maher is smarter and better read than most journalists I read. So I mean, I do think that is there, but to what extent does this kind of outrage, political outrage, have a chilling effect on your performance? Now, tell me, purely personally, because I can tell you, and we discussed this in the others, the series that Rolly Books and News Laundry did as part of this, that, as News Laundry, we can push the envelope because I have 40 or 50 employees. So if I have to shut down, I have to tell 40, 50 people, sorry guys,
Yeah.
because we've gone too far, bye-bye. But if you have 5,000 employees, maybe the decisions won't be as easy as they are for me. So, but I do know across organizations, journalists, individuals are pulling their punches. Dude, I don't want to lose my job. I don't get into trouble. Is the same happening in comedy, and to what extent?
I've interacted with a fair amount of comics who, and I say that fully acknowledging that one is in a better position, touch wood, than those comics legally. You know what I mean? To be able to hire lawyers. I got 14 legal notices and I had a high court hearing last year for jokes. You know what I mean? And I don't tom it too much. Just quietly pay the lawyer, and the lawyer responds and you deal with it, etc., etc. A younger comic does not have those options. So when you say, hey man, it's not worth it to me to do the political joke because I just don't want to deal with it, zero judgment from me. You know what I mean? Absolutely zero judgment. You do you, and when you apologize, zero judgment for me as well. At the end of the day, you got to put food on the table, you have to run your shop, you have to do all of that stuff, So I definitely see that happening amongst comedians. Most definitely saying.
And you personally, do you say that, fucking, I have a good, I get films, you do big films, like big budget films, you do Netflix. Why would you want to mess up your comfy life by doing, one political joke? It's a no-brainer because that it's not your job really.
Yeah, but no. I mean, I'm too married to the joke. You know what I mean? Like if I like a joke, it's a baby. I'm not letting it go. You know what I mean? If I truly like it, and chances are before you put it on a special or you put it online, you've done it for 30 shows, 25, 30 shows. And that means 25, 30 audiences of 4,000-5,000 people have loved it. Then there's no way I'm letting that joke go, man. I love it too much. You know what I mean? And let's be clear, comics also like a little bit of chugli. You know what I mean? We are. We are bitchy, salty, evil people. Let's be clear about it. You know what I mean? Let's take that narrative away कि we are speaking truth to power. जब तुमको बुरा लगता है, तो हाँ थोड़ा सा अच्छा हमको भी लगता है. You know what I mean? Let's be clear about that. So no, I'm not letting go of the joke just because I know it'll anger some people. Also because I know I'm getting further comedy from that. You know what I mean? I can write about the anger. I can write about the outrage. Now, I never want to be a one-trick pony. So that's what I'm clear, right? So sometimes I'll watch a late night host in the US and I'm like, it's Trump for the 9-minute monologue. And I'm like, yeah, if Trump loses the next election,
your material is gone, right?
Because he didn't spread it out. He's going to be replaced if Trump is gone. I don't want that, but I ain't letting go of the joke. No.
Aditi, if you could just take this question, which I actually discussed with Veer over a call the other day, and Veer, you can come in on that. I have attended some of these Bura Na Mano Holi Hai Sabhas in Banaras. There's a old culture tradition. It's like stand-up comic, because stand-up comic was invented by Dhritarashtra, just in case you're thinking it. It's a lot. and I have documentary evidence to prove it in Jane Bhi Do Yaro. Anyway, but, there is this tradition of Bura Na Mano Holi Hai, where they get people, the DM of Banaras would sit and they go at the guy. Yeah? They say stuff that is, and in Hindi it can sound even more hurtful because they don't know back. And it's a holy tradition, but I've seen some Punjab, stand-up acts which are pretty nasty. Now, this is happening in Hindi and Punjabi, but the guys in English are cracking jokes which I think are a fraction as offensive as some of the ones I've heard in Kanpur, Banaras, Punjab. explain this to me, because the people sitting there also have mobile phones. Why do you English types get so much pushback here? I can't explain it.
You know, it's a like, I mean, it's the sort of, it's the fact that right now, you know, we saw the rise of the nerds in the early 2000s, where it was the nerd pushing back against the jock popular culture. And for the lack of a better analogy, this is exactly what it is. The assumption is that English speakers are the jocks. Anything said in English sounds condescending if you don't know English well. And because English is the language of the oppressor, we don't want to hear, you know, and that's why you see now even the English comics doing a lot of Hindi punchlines. It's always further set up in English and then a punchline in Hindi because you instantly sort of connect with the language in your head. So English is seen as a condescending tool to use, which is why I think just linguistically that is a problem. And then of course, if you're a human woman, then bandi rakho. Bandi rakho.
Is it a class war, Veer? Is it a class thing that the jokes in the smaller towns in languages get away with it, but you guys don't?
I think so. Look, let's be clear. If you are doing English comedy, you are coming from a place of privilege. You know what I mean? Let's be clear. You've had that education. You know, chances are you've got a level of privilege that is above a large
segment. Sure.
Yeah. Right. So that's number one. I'm not going to get into how women who do comedy in English get treated, because I can't speak to that. But like, I know what you're talking about, like Pand, or I think it's called Bhand. You know what I mean? In Punjab, where they, you know, you beat each other with a chappal and you do the most offensive stuff. Like I've been part of that on a travel show, etc. The protocol for that is set, no? And it's 1,000-year-old protocol in terms of this is it. You will come, you will laugh. This is how it goes. English comedy in its new art form is relatively new in the country. And I think, see, the biggest criticism that I've ever had as a comic is who talks this way? You know what I mean? He over enunciates everything that he does.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like Indian English. And that comes from my background, right? So I didn't grow up in India. I grew up in Africa. And this is the way I talk, you know, when I perform. And people are like, he doesn't sound natural because he doesn't sound natural Indian, but he doesn't sound natural from anywhere else, etc., etc. And at some point you have to go, screw you. You know, this is the way that I talk. You know, and you, as awful as it sounds, but it is slightly funny, you kind of have to do the same thing with your privilege as well. You know, as an English comedian, you kind of have to be like, yeah, if I'm talking English and I'm doing stand-up comedy in English, I am privileged, for sure. I can be conscious of my privilege, but I ain't being apologetic for it. You know what I mean? So a lot of times when people say those are privileged jokes, I'm like, fuck yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And here are 3 more. Because I just don't know how to write any other jokes. I will try and make it funny. So there is that. Because if you look at the larger political narrative as well, it is get back at the privilege, right? I saw a lovely tweet the other day where I think Manmohan Singh came out and said something, right? And I hated Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister. I love him now. You know what I mean? Because now right? He comes out with like swag and he's like, told you, you know, like he's, you know, right now I love Manmohan Singh now. But I saw some tweet where somebody's like, you know, these intellectual types don't know the real India, right? And I remember thinking, the dude has 3 PhDs. You know, like, you worked on chest, shoulder, triceps today. That's the 3 things you have worked on. You know what I mean? Like, you don't like, but
and if you read his life story, he has had a really tough life from a really, you know, underprivileged economic background where he worked his way up and to where he was. I mean, I have 100 problems with him. And for that matter, I think that's amazing about Mayawati or even Narendra Modi. But that is one thing. And what they do with it is another thing. So, you know,
the thing weaponizing hatred towards the privileged to implement policies that, by the way, only benefit the privileged. You know what I mean? Like, let's hear about what's going on. You aren't privileged to be like, Arey, Ambani, Adani, ye, etc., etc., etc. But policy किसको benefit कर रहा है? उनको ही benefit कर रहा है at the end of the day. So, and English comics will fall into part of that narrative, saying, you know, you are English, you are privileged, you do well, you do this. And let's be clear, privilege, especially for us, is a bottomless pit. You know what I mean? Like, no matter.
In India, it works at many levels, even within. But yeah,
Aditya, you know, to speak to that, I feel like, you know, it is, and I find myself actually existing on a very interesting intersection of that. Is that I like English is sort of the language I write in, is the language that I speak in. But I've also realized that I want to use English to call out my own privilege or to interpret, you know, how this India that supposedly is not understood can communicate with each other. But unfortunately, and let's face it again, since 2014, there has been a demonization of any kind of person who uses a word more than longer than 3 syllables, which sort of leads to problems. So right now we need to, the English-Hindi divide, unfortunately, is obfuscating much larger issues when it comes to comedy and just general rhetoric and conversation.
But let's be clear also, like, Aditi, you and I talk thrice a year about performing abroad and performing.
Yeah. Right? I just used obfuscation. Yeah. Oh, fuck.
Aditi and I will meet. We meet in London and we'll be like, hey, you know, we can say the things that we want to say and all of that stuff, and that's fine. But be clear, there are more English speakers for us to perform to in India than there are anywhere else in the world. I have a larger audience in India as an English speaker than I do in America right now. This is where it's at. And my English doesn't make me less Indian. I'm in the Indian game. I'm an Indian comic. You know what I mean? My audience is here.
Okay, you know, before we wind up, and if you guys have any more views to share on this whole social media and comics on social media as a supplementary piece to regular media's commentary, feel free. But I had a question which I actually also put on our podcast, Hafta. We have a weekly podcast. I watched this show called Norseman, which I stumbled upon. And I was blown away. I had never heard of it. I just was like going on Netflix and I saw the trailer and I'm hooked. I've just finished season 3. And the jokes that they use, often with no bigger purpose, like you can use a rape reference or a rape joke to make a bigger point, which is more lofty in its philosophy. But there's some jokes which are just, they don't have a bigger point. They're just ridiculous. And I love the show, but I wondered how come, you know, Little Britain had to apologize. Anyone who's done anything at any point has to apologize. But Norseman gets a pass. And then I Googled and I saw a few articles on it. And it is appreciated and you know, no one seems to be wanting to take it down. What makes something okay and something like Little Britain get pulled down? Because I actually thought Little Britain was also offensive but funny. And so is Norseman.
The amount of attention paid to it. I'm telling you, 50 और लोग देख लेंगे तो फिर offensive हो ही जाएगा. Then you will only like watch the show again and be like, actually this is offensive. I'm telling you, this is how it works.
You think it's that simple, Veer?
Hanji. Oh, sorry.
Well, you know, I have questions about that even I'm thinking about these days, right? Number one is, if it's offensive, okay, does that mean it shouldn't exist? That's a question, right? Within the context of art only, right? Or does that mean it needs to be modified? You know, that's something that I'm thinking about as well. Also, let's be clear, what's offensive changes every 5 years or 4 years or 3 years or 2 years.
And now quicker, right? Cycles are becoming quicker. Cultural transitions are happening at a scale that are faster than economic bubbles and busts.
Yeah. But also, is it the only thing that's offensive? You know, when people are like, sorry, bol, I'm like, sorry. And they're like, I'm offended. I'm like, okay, that is very much your right. You are, you know, it's called taking offense. It's not called giving offense, right? You took it. You took something that didn't exist, right? You took it home. Is this the only thing you're offended by? And is this really the top of your goddamn pyramid? My joke? You know what I mean? Like, are you offended by pollution? Are you offended by the threat to your safety? Are you offended by the amount of tax you have to pay? Are you offended by potholes on the road? Because there's solutions for that. You know what I mean? Those can legit be fixed. So that's where do I stand? Am I the top of your pyramid in terms of what you are offended by? You know, is pollution, potholes, danger towards women, taxation, larger migrant worker crisis, water crisis. If you're not offended by any of this and you're just offended by a joke, maybe it's because this is the only thing you can actually fix. Maybe when you ask me for an apology, it's because you know it's the only goddamn apology you're actually going to get for anything that you're mad at.
Yeah.
You know? So why should we not apologize? Apologize. Ek apology milna chahiye unko. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what a universe that is? You got up and you were angry about something and somebody apologized. When does that ever happen? So do it, man. Apologize away every day.
Yeah. I agree. I think, this is sort of, it's also how every time a comedian is wrong, how it's treated, right? The kind of attention that a joke tends to get really blocks out a news cycle for a good week, because then things happen, then somebody's making a counter video, फिर वो counter video बन रहा है, तो मतलब that starts becoming a little universe in itself every time you get offended by a joke, which is why I think even really news cycles should also not I don't think they should make a big deal. Oh my God, comedians apologized. Comedians are idiots. We say, I cringe. I am cringing at the stuff I said at the beginning of this video.
Hell yeah.
I am sorry for it. तो मतलब इतना भी उसको.
Right now, I've seen a lot of comics get pulled up for tweets that are 8 years old, 9 years old. When these guys were like 1 year into comedy, 2 years into comedy, they are bad jokes. They are bad tweets. They're wrong, but they are perfectly within their rights to crack bad jokes at the start of their career. You absolutely are. You know, you have the right to be tone deaf. You have the right to mess up as a comic before you find your voice. Nobody in India has found their voice apart from Johnny Lever. Let's be clear. That's the only guy who's legit found it. None of us are even close in that level. And yeah, I mean, I read it sometimes and I'm like, yeah, it's a terrible joke. Sure, take it down or apologize for it or whatever. Yeah. But like, maybe let's look into past court cases. Hey, how about that? You know, if we're looking at past tweets, maybe let's look at like, what every politician has in his kitty of the past. While we're looking back into the past, you might find some other stuff that needs apologies too.
I mean, yeah. I get what you're saying, and I do think that one can criticize someone for the aesthetics of a joke or even its political incorrectness, but what are the consequences? And I just like closing comments from both of you, and then we'll wind up. I remember when the Charlie Hebdo thing happened. Yeah, there was a piece. It was in a British publication. I forget. I'm not going to name it because in case it's wrong, it would be very unfair. It was a respectable British publication, which had a very legit and good takedown of Charlie Hebdo's aesthetics, that they were needlessly provocative. They'd show the prophet running around naked, with everything hanging out, and they'd do stuff like that, and they were this and they were that. But, aesthetic critique, there's a time and place for. When 12 people have just been killed, really this critic thought this was a good time to talk about the aesthetics of those 12 people. So I think that it's not about how good or bad a joke is. If you're talking about beating people up, threatening them with violence or rape, which is why, I don't think one needs to justify that the joke was not on Shivaji, but on his statue. Hell, even if it was on Shivaji, why not? So, I think that is where I must apologize, because I have articulated that I was very distressed to see the spate of apologies that came. But you're right. I mean, with journalists, because there's so many journalists who get worse, they have an organizational backing. We have a budget for legal. I'm sure you don't. So,
sorry budget.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying, but should we give people a free pass to, to comment on the aesthetics of a joke at a time when the stakes are a lot higher?
you're not going to not catch any, not catch feedback, right? Everybody's well within their rights. Like if I assume the right to never self-censor myself and talk about the Prime Minister of my country or talk about religion or talk about any of these things, then I jolly well have to give you the right to criticize me. You know what I mean? I jolly well have to give you the right to respond as angrily or in as civilized a manner as you deem possible. You know what I mean? Should you apologize for it?
You said that. I think it really depends on where you are, man. Some people are way more vulnerable. Like Delhi.
Yeah.
You don't hear Delhi journalists get shot with the frequency you see in UP or even in Punjab. Sand mafia killed someone.
Yeah.
So I think that really depends on where you are.
I wouldn't really worry about if you shouldn't worry if you have to apologize. You should worry if you mean the apology. That's the way I look at it. Like that's
a good one.
Say sorry, but write more jokes. That's where I'm coming from on this. Like I'll give you context. All right, I had a high court hearing for jokes that I did about lawyers. All right, so I did some jokes about lawyers on Hasmukh, which is a fictional comedian. So he did jokes about lawyers. And all of a sudden, lawyers started sending us legal notices. So lawyers were offended by lawyer jokes, right? So then I had to go to high court with 3 of my lawyers and 4 other lawyers and sit in front of a judge and talk about jokes about lawyers. You know what I mean? And I just remember watching this in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a lockdown, an online high court hearing about jokes. And I just remember looking at this going, the only fucking people who have benefited from this are lawyers. You know what I mean? From this legal hearing. Because you've all made money on this damn thing. I've lost money. Now, I've lost money. You know what I mean? And I've lost time and I've lost hair and I've lost years of my life dealing with all of this stuff.
But but also what we've lost is a more worthy case maybe having come up in the High Court rather than something just pulling a comic in.
Yeah, but my point is, Abhinandan, I now have 5 minutes about it. You know what I mean? And that's what this
monetize.
Right? It's a joke now.
Right.
So that's fair.
Closing comments from you, Aditi?
Closing comments are those that, the morality and the ethics of being comedians and loving jokes and hating jokes are all up for grabs and up for discussion. It is when our political scenario does not guarantee our safety in that discussion is when we have to be really careful. And, someone like Agrima or a younger comic is much more vulnerable to, even just hearing that video. And I have a strong stomach, and watching that video gave me the chills. Like I felt like unsafe for a good 5 minutes after I watched it. And we have to we as a society, and I think this is going to be more of an organic thing, because this was also very organic when everyone started speaking up and saying, no, this guy needs to be arrested, or this guy needs to be, addressed at least. The police at least needs to talk to this guy. And ironically, because that's how the cookie crumbles, she got more hate once he got arrested, which she didn't want. She didn't want him arrested. There was public pressure to get him arrested. They got him arrested, and now she was then for like a week afterwards, she was fielding hate for getting a guy arrested when she didn't want to. And so there also has to be that understanding and a much more nuanced understanding, which again, social media does not allow, because it's basically a marketplace with all of us just screaming our ideas loudly. But there has to be, I think we have to aspire to it.
And also, I just want to add one thing, there needs to be a stronger sense of community within the art form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've seen more actors and actresses stand up for Agrima as many comics. You know what I mean? And I get that we're a tiny community, and I get that half of us are scared to death, as it is in a pandemic, about our future, etc.
Yeah.
We got to rally around each other more. And that doesn't have to be so much like my communication with Agrima when all of this shit happened was, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you writing jokes? I am. That's it. That's all we need to do. But there needs to be a larger sense of support if we want this art form to contextualize itself in India.
Thanks, Aditi. Thanks, Veer. And not just the artists. I'm now talking to our viewers and listeners that you got to decide what society you want to live in, where ideas compete and better ideas emerge, or you shut people down by breaking their homes or furniture in the places they perform at. And in the absence of any formal institutions to support such artists and art forms and free thinkers, it is a society that has to stand by them, whether it's through social media, or I'll go to the extent of saying next time you see kind of hate attacks on people, say, okay, 100 of us in this locality, you want to get to that home, you have to come through us. It can be done, unless when the official institutions don't protect you, one would have to turn to the community, not just of the artists, but also those who benefit and are tickled by the art. So think about that. Thank you for joining this discussion that Rolly Books and News Laundry have put together. Follow us on Instagrams, Twitter, Facebook, and all the other social media channels, on YouTube. And do keep track of what we do, and also what Aditi and Veer do, guys. Keep doing the wonderful work you do. More power to you. And I hope you don't pull your punches, and we make a conducive environment where you don't have to either. Thanks,
we need
Chirag.
bail money soon, so we won't pull our punches.
Yeah.
Whenever we need it. So yeah.